Okay. All right. Welcome to the March edition of the Master Gardener Program Coordinator meeting. We are recording. There's a number of coordinators that couldn't be here today, lots of different reasons, and have asked me, they've all asked me to make sure that I get this recorded and shared out. So that will be happening. I hope everybody is doing well. We were just talking a little bit about the weather. It's kind of rainy and yuck here, but it also kind of cleans things up for us. So I like it when we get a little bit of rain. And it's going to be nice this weekend, I think. So that's great news. So I have some announcements and then get into telling our story, the infrastructure updates, and then we'll finish with quality resources updates from Bryce and the curriculum group. So I want to remind everybody that Cougs Give is right around the corner, April 17th. And I'd love for you to become an ambassador. For the third year in a row, our program is being highlighted and we need you to help spread the word. This year, our goal is to raise $16,000 on this day of Cougs Give. Last year, we raised about $13,000. And I'm certain we will meet our goal with your ambassadorship help. We have a leadership challenge in place. And right now we're sitting at actually, I just got an update, $6,800 from the leadership of the Master Gardener program. And that's the WSU Master Gardener Program Leadership Team and the Master Gardener Foundation of Washington State Board of Directors have pooled their resources and given, toward our Endowed Chair campaign. And we're hoping that you as program coordinators will help us unlock that gift by becoming an ambassador, sharing out, the good work that our program does and all that we could do with the success of the Endowed Chair campaign reaching $1.5 million. The giving links will be shared out on that first part of April leading up until April 17th. If you do become an ambassador, please let me know because I'm going to host ambassador training on April 2nd. And I'll go ahead and I think I have here's the direct link to become an ambassador. I just put it in the chat for you. Click into that. Doesn't cost you anything to be an ambassador. And I'm just asking you to do that so that you have access to like the great Cougs Give thing behind me and some other tools that you can use to email and put the Cougs Give campaign on your social media sites. Also wanted to circle back on the coordinator retreat. Last month I said we'd have it in June, and Mary said, we have a holiday right in the middle of that plan. And so we have now, and I sent out a calendar invite to you. And that calendar invite was for the 17th through the 19th. I actually, we're going to just do the 17th and the 18th. So we'll plan on starting in the afternoon on the 17th, having a team dinner on the 17th, and then we'll continue our work on the 18th, and we'll aim to be done around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the 18th so that you can head home. I was kind of looking at, okay, who lives the farthest away? And I think it'll be, a 4 or 5 hour trip for some of those folks that are living out on the peninsula or down in the southern corners. So we're gonna, it's gonna be in the Kittitas Valley Event Center in Ellensburg, and we'll do some team building. We'll do some deep dive work into program evaluation, continuing that focus for our being able to, tell that compelling and impactful story that leads to public value. So mark your calendars, and I will update that invite to remove the 19th. So now I just want to share a little bit of the 2023 preliminary data from the survey that y'all entered your data into. And this is compared from 2022 to 2023. So the gray numbers show, or the gray bars show the number of certified volunteers we had at the beginning of 2022 and at the beginning of 2023. And the number of the red bars show the new trainees that we brought in 2022 versus 2023. It's good to see that we're increasing our volunteer numbers again. And then here are how the hours pan out in terms of category, comparatively from 2022 to 2023. In all, it looks like we had almost 50,000 more hours in 2023 than we did in 2022. Clinic questions by program priority. This bar graph shows that we're doing a much better job in 2023 than we did in 2022 on categorizing our plant clinic questions into the program priorities. And then this is all of the educational outreach activities that we held in 2023 and 2022. The gray bars are 2023, the red bars are 2022. So it's all of the classes, all of the demos, all of the workshops. Held a lot of local food classes. And then here are kind of how attendees that broke out. So obviously most people attended local food classes. We held more of those than anything else. So I'm going to continue working on this, pulling these data points and putting them into that an impact report, similar to what we published in 2022. All right, so now I want to switch gears and come back around to program impact and public value. Over the next few months, the Telling Our Story team is going to continue our focus on program evaluation so that we can get much better at telling a compelling and impactful story, and be able to contribute or attribute that to public value. And I want to share just a bit of a roadmap. I think that my working with the Telling Our Story team, I think this might help, I hope. So it all starts with being able to evaluate our program. All starts with using the program priority toolkit. Also the logic models that we will continue to work on for each program priority. That's the logic models are the pieces that we worked on last month. Also success indicators and the use of pre-made Qualtrics surveys for all counties to use to evaluate on the same indicators. I'm going to talk more about that as we go through this today. But here you're looking at a photo from a class on planting tomatoes. And just a side note, this photo was taken at the end of May last year. It looks kind of cold outside. But so this quote that you're seeing here is one that I just made up for the sake of the example. We don't have quotes from this. And I also just want to, kind of walk through a wouldn't it be great if example. So let's say that the Master Gardener teachers in this photo used the program priority toolkit and established the learning outcomes, used the established learning outcomes and also looked at that intersection between local food and horticulture to develop their program. So they knew what they wanted their participants to learn. So they taught them about the issue of food security, insecurity, and how local food impacts individual and community health and wellness. They taught their participants about how having easy access to local food, nutrient-dense foods, increases health outcomes. They also mentioned that donating extra pounds of produce to food banks is a great way to support the food supply need. So then let's just say they taught about proper planting, watering, and feeding techniques. Then later in the season, they held a similar class where they taught about proper pruning for increased yield. Both of these demonstrations were evaluated using the soon-to-be-ready indicators for success and the Qualtrics surveys that will soon to be ready. The Qualtrics survey that was sent to these folks immediately following the class, we asked them about what they learned. And we also asked them about what they will do because of what they learned. And then 6 months later, we sent it again. Only this time, we asked them what they did. Did they do what they said they were going to do? Did they do what we taught them to do to take proper care of that tomato for increased yields? And then a year later, we surveyed them again using a different Qualtrics survey that is, okay, well, you learned this, you did this, what happened because of that? And the thing that happened was, oh my gosh, I had so many tomatoes that I didn't know what to do with them. And I donated, more than 50 pounds to the local food bank. So that's where we get at what people learned. That's the short-term outcome. We get at what they did. That's the behavior change, the medium-term outcome. And then we get at what was the condition change. And that's the longer-term outcome. So many tomatoes, I didn't know what to do with them. I donated them. So why does all this matter? Why do we care? A couple of reasons that come to mind. Our program serves the WSU Connors Resilient Washington vision. We help provide a secure food supply system. We help maintain sustainable natural resources and ultimately support healthy communities, families, and individuals. We know intrinsically in our program that we do these things. We see it happen every day. But we must be able to back that up with data that supports our claims and that describe our program impact and public value. Also, this matters because an ability for us to tell a compelling, impactful story with data that leads to public value will help WSU and our partner Master Gardener Foundations garner additional financial resources so that we can do a better job of what we already do. So I've been working a lot with the Telling Our Story team on this, and we've been wrestling with the difference between program impact and public value. So, and they thought it would be a good idea for me to talk through this today. So the program impact is the impact that individual people, services, or individual organizations, so the individual Master Gardener program, it's the impact that they have on the community members who directly participate. So that's the people who attend our classes. So in this photo, there's some kids here at a Master Gardener event, and it looks to me like they're learning about soil or compost or worms or something, right? It's hard to tell from the photo. But These people are directly participating in our program, and what they learn, what they do because of what they learn, and how their condition is changed is program impact. Public value, on the other hand, is the thing that the non-gardeners or the non-program participants, it's the value that we contribute to society as a whole. So in this picture, it's a public garden. There are people wandering through it, enjoying the beauty of it. But maybe they're not gardeners. Maybe they don't really know that the health and wellness benefit that they're receiving from being in that space. They just enjoy being in that space. That's the public value. So we have some tools that will help us move into the ability to collect data around program impact. One of those is logic model. Like, it's a planning tool. It focuses our actions for successful evaluation. Its structure insists that we define the outcomes we intend to accomplish. Our program priority toolkit also has those defined outcomes we intend to accomplish. But so for logic model, it starts with inputs. Do we have the resources that we need to be successful? So it's our partners. Do we have the money? And do we have the human capacity to pull off whatever we're trying to pull off? And then the outputs are those activities, our educational outreach events, our fact sheets, our trained volunteers, our teaching gardens, the number of participants. And then when we get over to outcomes, there are short-term, medium-term, and long-term outcomes. So the short-term we look at are what have you learned? What's the knowledge that you've gained? And then medium-term, what behavior changes did you make because of what you learned? And then the long-term, that gets at what are the differences that have been made because of what you learned and did? What's that condition change? So we've got this beautiful logic model crafted. We've defined our inputs, we've got our outputs, we know what we're going to do, and we know what those outcomes are that we want to see happen. But how do we know if we're successful or not? How will we know if those outcomes actually come to fruition? Success indicators. In business, these success indicators are often called key performance indicators. And they're easier to define, right? It's a widget. Businesses sell widgets and they make money. So ABC company has a goal to sell 100 widgets per day in Q1, generating $100,000 in revenue. Success indicators are or key performance indicators are quantifiable measures that gauge success against defined targets, those outcomes. So in a business, it's the key performance indicators would be number of widgets, dollars made. Pretty straightforward. In our line of work, those things are harder to define. It's much more difficult to figure out what are we selling, right? What's our widget? They're generally a bit softer and harder to measure. So if we stick with the tomato example, and we're looking at indicators, the short-term indicators that we can measure, these are quantifiable measures that gauge our success against our target. We can measure percent knowledge gained on how to plant, water, and feed a tomato, and percent knowledge gained on how to prune a tomato. That's the immediate term indicator. So then let's look at those medium term ones. What's our widget in here, in this area? How will we know if people's behavior has changed? What can we measure? Well, we can measure number of people who plant, water, and feed the tomato according to what we taught them to do. If 10 people attended the workshop and 8 people did it, that's 80%. That's 8, that's a great number. We can also measure number of participants who prune that tomato according to what we taught them to do. And then on that long-term piece, we can measure the percent increased tomato yield. And these are going to be self-reported things, right? So we're sending a Qualtrics survey to our participants, and we're going to ask them, did you increase your tomato yield? By how much? And we're going to ask them to put in a percent. And then percent of participants who donate food to food banks or food pantries. Those are widgets that we can measure. So the Telling Our Story team has some goals for 2024. Some short, medium, and long-term evaluation. Ideally, we want all counties to evaluate at least one local food event. Just one. Choose that one, use the program priority toolkit, use the logic model, define this, use those defined success indicators, because we know what our targets are, we know what our outcomes are that we want to achieve, and evaluate it in the immediate term. What did you learn? 6 months later, evaluate it. What did you do? And then a year post or 18 months post, somewhere in there, the class or workshop, survey the participants again and say, well, what changed? We're going to have those surveys pre-done for you. You just are going to have, you'll just need to pull them down off of Qualtrics. And then we also want every county to evaluate at least one other educational outreach activity of their choice within climate change, plant biodiversity, or water conservation. We chose these program priorities because when we looked at 2023 data, every single county offered local food, educational outreach classes, and every single county offered at least one of these other 3. So the Telling Our Story team commitment to you is at next month's meeting, we will have the local food logic model, success indicators, and Qualtrics surveys available for you. And then at the May meeting, we will have climate change, plant biodiversity, and water conservation tools available for you. So once we get to this point where we are evaluating our programs, and then at the end of the year, you put in your impact statement back to me, your program impact statement, I can take those impact statements and turn them into public value statements. Those statements that tell the general public, non-gardeners, non-program participants about the value that the master gardener provides to society overall. And when we're looking at that in local food, we look at the intersection between horticulture and local food. And we know that people who have easy access to nutrient-rich foods have lower BMIs, are at less risk for diabetes, are at less risk for obesity. So then we can do this. So this is an example describing the issue of food insecurity and the associated societal risks. People who are food insecure have decreased academic success, are more likely to experience chronic physical health conditions like diabetes and obesity, and mental health disorders. And the consequences or the results cost society $481 billion annually across the US. In Washington, can add that up there, 8.7 billion plus 708 million. And then it's really hard to quantify the decreased academic outcomes. So here's what the Master Gardener program does about it. Now I want to say that this is partially true and partially false. I kind of made some of this up just for the sake of the example. The italicized impacts might be true, but we don't collect data to back up these statements that I have here. I don't know for sure that we increase fruit and vegetable yields from growing plants for food. I don't know for sure that our food banks have increased availability because of the food that we donate, because we don't collect that data. So these are going to be data points that will be a part of those Qualtrics surveys and our logic models. So we know what we're trying to accomplish with each program priority. In the public value statement, I don't know if the italicized portion is true because we don't collect data on that. I don't know if we're increasing the engagement of our participants in donating food or participating with local, food banks and food pantries in support of the food supply chain. It's important that we're all collecting the same data based on defined success indicators relative to each program priority so that I can turn your program impacts into public value statements. So I'm asking you to help by using the toolkit, logic models, success indicators, and Qualtrics evaluations in at least 2 of your educational outreach events this year. One in local food and one in one of the 3, plant biodiversity, climate change, or water conservation. We're going to talk about this more in April, with the local food example continuing. In the meantime, as you're thinking about your outreach this summer, be sure that you're using the program priority toolkit, the learning outcomes within that, and the intersection between horticulture and the priority to develop your outreach. So I'm going to open it up to questions in just a second, but I have to say thank you to the Telling Our Story team. So Mary Watts, Sarah Moore, Erica Johnson, Tim Kohlhoff. The meetings that we have had over the last, oh shoot, there's people in the waiting room. The meetings that we have had over the last couple of months around this have been extremely beneficial. We all think about this differently, but we all come to the same conclusion that this is an extremely important part of our program that we must get better at. So sincere thanks to the team, and we're going to keep trudging along. Thank you for your help on this. Any questions before we move on? This is a lot.
Hey, Jennifer.
Uh-huh.
Hey, I had a question about the program priorities and the when like if we're to do these surveys. So I did a survey when these first came out, and it was right in the middle of fire season. So you can imagine wildfire preparedness
Yep.
was the for even beyond even more so than local food, and we're an agricultural county. So
Uh-huh.
do you have any suggestions, or I mean, is there something you want us to a certain way of
Yeah.
going about these surveys, or
So I guess yes, if you want to evaluate outside of these ones that we're talking about right now, please do that. Please continue doing that. And, the FireWise or fire resistant landscaping or wildfire preparedness in the program priority toolkit, there are targets in there that you can evaluate from. And then, develop those success indicators. The reason why we chose the ones that we did was because of what the most of the counties are delivering education on, and timing, right? We just plain can't get logic models and Qualtrics surveys done for all 9 of these, so we have to start somewhere. But please go ahead and evaluate on the other ones if that's what you want to do.
yep, we'll do. Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, is there like an ideal, and I think Erica talked about this a little bit in a prior meeting, but is there an ideal like class size to do this with? Because I imagine that your participation in those surveys is just going to decrease over time.
Yeah, Erica did talk about it in a prior meeting, and the more the better. That's just simple, data analysis. The more people you have, the better. And right, we're doing this immediately, and then 6 months, and then 18 months, and people will drop off. But I remember that I'm going to be putting these with every other county. So it's not, if we're evaluating using the same surveys and the same indicators, then I can add them all together, and that increases the data points.
Okay. I guess my concern is that so we already finished our like most highly attended class series, and then all of our other ones planned for the year are usually like only like maybe a max of 20, more like 10 to 15 per workshop versus those other ones where we have like 70 people per class. So I'm just worried about, I guess, even getting people to respond for the results, but it'll just be an experiment.
Yeah, really, Tessa, be an experiment. We have to start somewhere. And if we start this year with these smaller ones, and then we'll be able to use what we learn to hopefully make it better. So when you do evaluate through the garden gate, in 2025, we've got it down.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you, Jennifer, for presenting this. I think it may be a self-answering question, but I just wanted to pose what I typed into the chat about the data points being a particular survey respondent. It doesn't sound like we need to have, if someone decides they want to participate in the survey the first time around, they do it, but then we send the 6-month one, they decide not to, but the 18-month one, they're like, oh yeah, that I did that, and then they do give us feedback. So is it that's not how we're looking at this information, right? That particular person doesn't have to have a full three complete survey responses for that to be valid data.
Correct. Yeah,
Gotcha.
if they only answer the very last survey, that's still okay. I'm not gonna be comparing any of that. I'm not doing that kind of analysis on this.
Oh, okay, so it's all, and so the data points would also be anonymous in a way.
Yep.
If I could
Okay.
interject too, I mean, you could do a 6-month survey right now, and you can also do an 18-month survey right now. You're basically just catching people wherever they are.
Mhm.
You've got people at the 6-month mark now, and you've also, if you've got like an Eventbrite or a brown paper tickets registry, you should have access to people who took something 18 months ago.
Mhm.
So as long as you're evaluating on the right program priority, you can catch them wherever they are based on what list or what contact information you have.
Okay, that sounds good. I think it'd also be important to at this point just start, well, yeah, that if we're collecting this data, if we're collecting those email addresses at the time of collection, that we're also expressing to those folks what we would be doing with their information, that we would be surveying them. So we don't have that protocol right now of collecting email addresses after events. The only time we do give folks the opportunity to provide us with their contact data if they want to receive a monthly newsletter or become a master gardener, for example. But yeah, so just have to change the way we interact with our audiences in person. And if we yeah, and just full disclosure up front, be like, hello, we are going to be doing some surveys and follow-up surveys. So please give us your email address if you'd like to participate in follow-up surveys. So thank you.
Thanks, Harmony. Any other questions on this before we jump to the next to infrastructure? Okay. So now I'm gonna switch gears to the infrastructure team and Microsoft 365 adoption. This team has been working for a long time. You might recall a survey, probably 2 years ago now. Okay, one more question. It looks like on the program. Will you have sample survey questions to consider asking our participants? Yes, we will, and that's part of the Qualtrics survey. And that's what we'll want you to use to evaluate. So those aren't ready yet. The local food one will be ready in April, and then we'll have climate change, plant biodiversity, and water conservation available in May. Since we haven't had any paying events and we can't connect REG data collected with any identifying data, we haven't been collecting any except for add to mailing list forms. We're working on a way around that one too, Linda.
Thanks.
Yep. So there'll be more to come on all of that stuff.
Great, thanks.
Yep. So the infrastructure team surveyed program coordinators and volunteers, and we're trying to get at, what are the tools that we need for, to run our program efficiently and effectively, particularly given that volunteers no longer have access to WSU.edu behind the password wall resources because of the multi-factor authentication, which, I'm glad that WSU increased their security on that because, my social security number and all of my personally identifying information is there. So is yours. So anyway, but we needed to come up with a new way for us to collaborate across counties and with volunteers. So we did the survey and we decided to focus on, the MS Microsoft 365 adoption, which would give us access to SharePoint and clinic email and a variety of other tools, like the cloud-based tools like Word and PowerPoint, Teams. I mean, all kinds of terrific cloud-based resources that Microsoft offers. It offers storage capacity for files, videos, photos, all in one place that's accessible by faculty, staff, and volunteers. It allows us to collaborate on files related to specific topics. Maybe it's basic training. We want to see each other's syllabi or share oh, I just lost the word. Wow. Anyway, we want to share across counties and within our own groups, right? On what we're doing in basic training, handouts, lesson plans, and then, or the climate change group. It's a space for them to work behind the scenes that the general public doesn't have access to, but that the Master Gardener volunteers working on the topic do have access to, and they can collaborate and make adjustments as needed on their curriculum development. And this can happen both within the county, and across counties. It allows for communication among all volunteers in your county. So like group mail. And it can be for, general, all volunteers, or you can create groups that are in SharePoint to communicate with a specific group, like only with your climate or only with your plant clinic people, or only with your demonstration garden people, only with your plant sale people. It allows for volunteer access to WSU linked and a secure system with tech support. It will provide for formulaic plant clinic email and storage, and eventually a plant clinic database. And then when we asked the volunteers that are part of this team from all different counties, there's 4 counties involved. I think it's only 4, might be 5 counties involved, volunteers. They all say the best part is working with each other across counties because they're learning together and supporting each other, and they don't feel so alone in what they're trying to do. So we're ready now, to an extent, for counties who are interested to start looking at getting their own instance of MS 365. This is free to nonprofits, and this is how, our program can work in partnership with our foundations. Because then we have access to MS 365 for free, giving us all the benefits of that on that last slide. So if you're interested and want to start down this path, I encourage you to email this email address, mgsupport.ms365@wsumastergardeners.org. This email is managed by the SharePoint subcommittee group. It's volunteers. Many of the volunteers are Microsoft employees or retirees. And I can tell you, when I'm on these calls and they start talking, I just go, huh? And then I say, could you explain that differently in words that I can understand? So it's been a fun project for me to learn from and work with them. They're great volunteers, and they want to help you as well. So, you know, they want to start hearing from you if you're interested in doing this, but they also want you to understand that this is new for all of us. And we're going to be learning alongside, you know, as we work together. And their question is, are you willing to help us learn? And if you are, and you want to adopt MS 365 for your county and have access to sharing within your county and across counties, send an email to this address.
Can you say that email again, please?
I'm going to put it in the chat.
Awesome, thanks.
But it'll take me a minute. I'll put it in the chat here in a few. So like I said, this is free to nonprofit. So what if you're a county without a foundation? Not a problem. The Master Gardener Foundation of Washington State will step in to help. Stevens County has already reached out and I believe is working with this group to get access and start along the email path. I also know that San Juan County is starting down this path. Items for consideration as you're thinking about this. Make sure you have volunteer support. This is a volunteer. We cannot do this as a single program coordinator. We need our volunteers to be on board, and we need them to be able to have the technical savvy to support it. And this will help you with your growth and development of your local program. Having things available, all of your resources available in one space will help you grow and develop your program. Alex DuPont is a part of this team and from Skagit County and has been using MS 365 and SharePoint in her county for a long time. I think she has some words of wisdom for us all.
Yes. Hello, everyone. So thanks so much, Jennifer, for talking about this. I think this is such a valuable tool that all of us here and this county and the state should be utilizing. It's probably the most valuable tool in my toolkit here in Skagit County. We use it for a variety of reasons, for collaboration, we send emails. Also getting access to all of those Microsoft programs is really important because I found that a lot of volunteers don't actually have those programs on their computers. So it's a really nice place to have that suite of programs. And I would say that one of the main things that we utilize it for, we use it for a variety of reasons, but training is one of the big things that is really wonderful to use this tool for, because we have things like PowerPoints and Zoom recordings that are rather large, and we have no other place to store them. And so this is a really nice location for us to store all sorts of tools and resources for not only myself, but lots of volunteers across the county. And like Jennifer said, you know, I'm not doing this on my own. I can't do it on my own. And I have a huge group of volunteers that help support this whole system. So I would encourage you to start talking to your volunteers and finding out a few people that might help you create this system together, because you can't do it alone. So I think that's one of the most important things, is that you really need to create a community of volunteers that will help support you throughout this process. And, you know, we've been working on this, oh my gosh, for 5+ years. And it's just been so wonderful. And we've learned a lot and we've made mistakes. But, you know, that's part of the learning process. And I think that we all are trying to learn how to use this system better. And we're here to help you. So just let us know if you have questions, if you need support. These volunteers that we've been working with on this subcommittee have been so wonderful and nice and answer dumb questions, even if we think they're not super dumb, but they might. We try to get these things answered by people that are experts in the field. So I think it's really important that we're working with this great team of people, and I'm excited to see how everyone else will utilize this tool across the state, because really we need to collaborate more across the state. And I think that I'd love to be able to use resources that others are using in different counties. And I'm sure that you probably want to use some of ours here in Skagit County too. So I think this is going to be a win-win for everyone. So I'm here to answer questions if you have any for me.
Alex, how many volunteers would you say are needed to support you in getting this up and running? Like in Skagit County, I think you have 3, right?
Yep. Yeah, so I have about 3 people that help me manage it behind the scenes, but I would say there's more than 50% of our population is utilizing some aspect of Microsoft Office 365, either through email or collaboration. So we've gotten a large number of our population on, but as far as administration, I would say a team of 3 to 5 would probably work just great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so a team of 3 to 5 to help you get it going. Would you say that because the resources on this site are available to volunteers and they know where to go find them, they're less reliant on you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's made it so much easier for me. And I've also been able to say to volunteers when they're looking for things, well, have you checked SharePoint? Have you gone there? And then I found that just by saying that over and over again, people stop asking that question because they know where I'm going to send them, right?
Yep.
So I think it's important to have that one place where you can send volunteers, and then they eventually get used to it and learn the system, right? And then they stop asking me, which is wonderful.
So there's a question in the chat. I'm going to try to answer it. Do volunteers get a new email address to access the system? It depends. So the people that Alex was just saying, just interact with the system. They use their personal email addresses. They can log in that way. If they're administrators in the system, then they will have a different email address. Is that correct, Alex?
That is correct.
Okay.
So basically you have guest accounts and then user accounts. And depending on what kind of access you want people to have, you would create different user profiles. So I think that you would probably want a few admins in your team, and then most of your users will probably be guests. Yep. But that's all terminology that we don't need to learn right now, but we will learn it together.
Alex, could you give an example of how your program uses this? Just like, for example, Plant Clinic, or just how it works for you, for your group?
Yeah, so we use it for a variety of different things. I would say we use it for outreach. So we have all of our flyers and brochures all in one location on our SharePoint. And we have a specific outreach group, and only a certain amount of people are in there. And then we have certain files that are protected and others that are not, so that we can edit or not edit them depending on what kind of, if they've been approved or not approved. So really that's one of the main things we use it for, is doing outreach. And then I would say also training. Training is one of the big things that I use the system for probably every day, especially during training season. It's where we put all of our PowerPoint presentations, all of our Zoom recordings, our syllabus, our schedule. Our whole training team has access to it, and we are constantly collaborating and working on documents together. So I hope that answers your question, Marco. Let me know if it doesn't. Okay. But we use it for a variety of other things. That's just two of the groups that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, I got a quick question. Do you have like a county? So we're in a county office. So the county IT is going to have to make all this stuff happen. Is that something that you deal with, or is anybody else that you know of
So
deal with their county IT?
I don't have county IT. We work specifically with WSU here
Okay.
in our office if we need IT needs. That being said, I have never utilized WSU IT to help me with this system. I am very lucky to have several Microsoft employees, or that used to be Microsoft employees in my county. And so they are the ones that help troubleshoot all of these issues. They're very familiar with the system and probably would know better than potentially someone at a county IT level, just because they're Microsoft people. That being said, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be able to support you in this system, because it's pretty user friendly, I would say. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. We
So there's a
recently
couple
switched
more-
to 360 or 365.
What was that, Jason?
Oh, I see. We just recently, the county switched over to that. So
Oh, well, that's
I like it.
good.
Yeah, I
That's
like it.
good, because that means that you probably have a system higher up that will be able to support that. And that's
Mm.
part of the reason why we chose this system, is this is what we use at WSU.
And WSU can help provide support for us.
Exactly.
I like it.
So we
Awesome.
have a couple more things on our agenda today that I want to touch on. There's a couple questions in the chat. Let's run those through. Let's run those through the MG support at MS365 at wsumastergardeners.org. Alex, if you want to type while I'm talking, to answer those, that's fine too.
Yep.
But
I can do that.
okay, but let's run those. Let's also put them up into our support email.
Yep. Please use the support email. That's why it was created.
Yep.
But I will try to answer the best I can.
Okay. And then a Give Pulse update. We've realized that some of our open events, somehow the settings went wackadoo. And so if you look in your open opportunities, that's the Answer Plant Clinic, program support, other educational delivery, those ones. Go into edit event, basics, participants needed, and make sure all of those are set to 0. If they're not set to 0, the right down here where it says this event is full, there'll be a blue button there that says register now. And we've found that some volunteers are registering for those open events thinking they've put in hours, and they actually haven't. So if I could just get you to go through those and make sure that those are all set to 0, that would be very helpful. And next, I want to turn it over to Bryce. He's going to give you an update on our basic training curriculum, and I think pitch something to you.
Okay, thanks. Well, it's 2:00, so I'll be quick. Still working on the Master Gardener curriculum. One of the things that we want to include in it is some lesson plans, because every time I talk to coordinators, I hear all these great things that people are doing to conduct their volunteer training across the state. And we're trying to change the balance of our trainings from mostly lecture to more activities. And not everyone has experience hosting activities, and we can all benefit from each other's ideas. So I think I talked about this last time, but I have an example of a formal lesson plan that I formatted out for folks. So you should be seeing that on the screen now.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would like people to do is to fill these out for yourself. So this one I pretty much just made up, but I just wanted you to see what it looks like when all the details are filled in. You put in the time, the place, you pick a program priority, you pick like a learning outcome that it relates to. Then you write out some learning outcomes for this activity, describe the task, what people would need to do it, how long each part of it would take, what you would do at the end, how you're going to know it's a success, and then how you might find out how it went for the people that participated in it, and keep some notes for changes for next time. So there's a blank template where you can just click on things and enter in your details. And I have a link to that in the chat right now. And also, I'm going to send this out to the Master Gardener coordinators list. That's it. Any questions?
Thanks, Bryce. Let's see, I'm trying to put the email address for the support in the chat for you. So please email that address if you are at all interested in adopting MS 365 and having access to all of those wonderful tools and that Alex was talking about, and the plant clinic emails, potentially a plant clinic database. And please help Bryce out. It will help us all in the end if we can share our lesson plans. Wouldn't it have been great if we already had SharePoint and all those lesson plans are on SharePoint and all Bryce had to do was go get them?
Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be a great project for us to work on?
All right. So our next meeting is April, what is it? April what? April, I have it on my slides here. April 24th. Anything in between there, always reach out. Happy to visit. And I hope that you find the program evaluation tools that we're working on helpful. This is something that's, we've been working on nationwide in the Master Gardener program. These are hard things. And so really appreciate your efforts to support us in this endeavor. And Eric, I'm jealous. I love rafting. Anything else for the good of the group? Oh, Jackie's coming in. All right. Thanks all. Have a good month, and if I don't talk to you between now and then, happy Easter.